Welcome to the Paranormal Stakeout Radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal Stakeout guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal Stakeout Radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal Stakeout Radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from the Southern Command Post of the X-Zone Radio and Television Broadcast Network in beautiful Vero Beach, Florida, where we're actually starting to get some fall weather down here. The high today was only about 80. So hopefully it'll get a little colder next week. But I'm really happy that you're all here tonight. Got some interesting guests. They're coming from the place where I began my law enforcement career, down in Miami, and an interesting spot that very, very few, I don't hear a lot of folks in the paranormal field outside of Florida talking about Miami. So I'm really excited to speak to Jenny and Armando, otherwise known as Mondo Gonzalez, out of Miami, Florida. They're a husband and wife team, who also are known as 305 Paranormal, 305 being the area code in Dade County. They do a lot of different things. They put on a lot of events. They help host events in various locations in South Florida. They provide educational investigations at public events, and education, as you know, is what I'm all about. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my guest, Jen and Mondo. Jen and Mondo, 305 Paranormal, welcome to the show.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Larry. Thank you, Paranormal Stakeout fans. Thank you for the invite. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Well, there's a lot of things I want to talk about. And as I said, my whole career in law enforcement began in the Dade County Jail. In fact, that's where I had my very first paranormal experience as a 20-year kid. And it kind of, I still talk about it today, and it's a very, very important reason why I got into all this, trying to figure out what occurs on the other side. And the funniest part about it was just the guys that were working with me that night kind of just blew it off, saying, yeah, that stuff happens here all the time. And what I saw, just to let you know, was a figure walking on the catwalk around the cell blocks, and then they were gone. And I thought it was somebody real, but nobody was there. So that's enough about me. I want to hear more about you. My fans, my listeners would like to hear more about you. Tell us, what is 305 Paranormal? How did you guys get into this field?
Well, 305 Paranormal, like you mentioned, comes from the area code, the original area code of Miami, Florida, and we are from Miami, Florida, so paying homage to our place of birth. And I started in the paranormal because I always had interest in the paranormal and the supernatural, because I had stuff happen to me since I was little that was paranormal. So it's normal for me. I grew up with that. And when we dated, I kind of mentioned it to him a little bit that he might see things, or, he knew I believed in the paranormal, and eventually something happened to him while we started living together and saving up for our wedding. And then that's how he ended up, I don't know, being in the paranormal too.
Getting involved in it. Hold on just a second here. Little technical difficulty there. Sorry. So one thing about Miami that I don't think a lot of people appreciate is the cultural melting pot that Miami is. And that's not just different cultures, it's different religions too. At my law enforcement work, I spent a lot of time actually teaching law enforcement in my area up here, Santario, Palamombe, things like that. Did that have an effect? And those are what we refer to as Afro-Caribbean cults or religious groups down there. Did that have an effect on your interest in the paranormal? Any of that?
I say that was for me. I grew up in a town called Sweetwater.
Know it well.
It's a little Nicaragua there. It's very Hispanic melting pot. Now it's Cubans, Colombians, Venezuelans. Back then it was more, I say, Cubans, a little bit Colombians, and people from Nicaragua. And yeah, we had botanicas all over the place. And I was used to walking into those places when I was little. You know, first when I was young, I see and I'm kind of like, this is weird, a little creepy. But I guess I'm used to that. It's normal to me here, and there's botanicas all over the place in Miami.
What is a botanica? For folks that don't know what a botanica is, could you explain that just briefly?
So it's a shop, a little store that sells religious items for ceremonies, people who practice hoodoo, voodoo, and santeria. Mm-hmm. And you know, they have religious statues. I guess if they want to do some type of ceremony, like different type of herbs and like candles and a whole bunch of stuff. Let's go there.
And the interesting thing about it is it's a mixture of both ancient religions from other countries and Catholicism mixed together in most cases.
Yeah.
So that is very interesting, and that's one of the aspects about Miami that I just don't think a lot of folks are aware of. So Armando, tell me about your first experience, man. You hook up with this nice lady here. She tells you be careful that somebody might be watching. And what happened?
So yeah, it's just, you know, we're dating at the time, and she tells me this, and you know, she's a beautiful young woman, still is, and you know, I'm like, yeah, you know, okay, that's neat. I've never experienced that, so I don't know what that is. You know, I know about, you know, South Florida sports, I know about video games and things of that, but paranormal, okay, I don't know what that is. It wasn't until I had my very first experience, and funny that you mentioned Santeria. So I guess at a location that we resided in, mm-hmm. Unbeknownst to us, there was a Santeria ritual that was done, and it kind of stirred up pretty much our living arrangement.
Yeah.
But my very first paranormal experience, I was playing PlayStation, waiting for Jenny to get home from work. And to make a long story short, we had a living room area attached to our bedroom, and I was playing on a futon. And what I felt all of a sudden on my left side of my body really cold, like if I walked into a walk-in freezer. So like if you were halfway in, halfway out, that's what I felt. And then I started hearing the springs of the futon going down, and I can see an impression of somebody sitting right next to me. So I can see it, I sensed it, and I can, you know, hear it. At that point, I had my fight or flight kicked in. It was either I'm going to acknowledge you, or I'm going to do option B, which is what I chose to do. I'm just going to keep on playing my game and hope to God that you leave. And that's exactly what happened. And just a lot of questions and curiosities, things like that arose from that. Jenny, kind of like as a date night thing, kind of bought like tickets for us to go and investigate one of our favorite locations now.
Yeah.
Which is called the Deering Estate. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that, but that was the very first location that Jenny and I investigated together. She's been on investigations before me, but that was the very first place that we investigated together. So that place means a lot to us because that's essentially what started Jen and Mondo pretty much as far as 305 Paranormal. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And then fast forward, and during a future investigation, I felt a cold spot. And that brought me back to my very first paranormal experience. And I was able to answer one of the questions I had about the paranormal. And that kept me going onto there, the curiosity was piqued.
So how many years ago was this? How long ago?
Ooh,
No, how Mondo got involved and had the event
yeah.
happen to him.
So that was when we were saving up for our wedding. So we got married in 2011. So definitely like 20.
It's about to be 15 years.
10?
No,
Maybe
over 15 years ago, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting. So Jen, how did you explain this to this nice guy that you're dating, you're planning a life with, but he's got no experience with the paranormal, and I don't get a chance to talk to folks that was able to indoctrinate, bad word, but introduce is the word I'm looking for, to somebody in the field. How did you explain this to him? How did you make it make sense to somebody that's never had that kind of experience?
I think at first it was just asking him if he's ever had an experience, like any ghost experience. No. And then more like indifferent. And I'm like, okay, so let me tell you what happened to me. So, if I tell people things, I don't know at this point if they think I'm crazy, but I'll be like, or I would say like what I feel sometimes. Oh, I feel this, or hey, I saw that. We've been on vacation and I've seen full body apparitions. One that I would even think it's somebody, but it's not. And he knows that. So I'll constantly tell him my experiences, and he's just like, okay, that's cool. And I always used to have him watch like the shows with me, the original back in the day, Ghost Hunters and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's one thing seeing it on TV, but then when he went to Deering Estate and got to like actually investigate in some places and see the tools firsthand, like that's a whole other thing. So I think that's what made him like, oh wow,
yeah,
this is pretty neat.
Definitely.
Did you have to spend a lot of time kind of explaining to him, this is what I think it is, or he just accepted it?
He just accepted it, and then he knew that I like scary movies and horror movies also, or we kind of like both like the same thing. And I love October all the time and just Halloween stuff. So he was just like, she's fine. When
did you have your first experience? At what age?
I would say 5, 6. When I have for my first experience.
What happened, if I may ask?
Yeah, no problem. I saw what was a blue ball. It's got like not about that big, and it was in a corner of my closet. The closet door was closed, and it's on the corner of my closet door, like hovering. But I woke up. I don't know why I woke up, but I just woke up, and then that's all I see. But it was blue. It's not like a white ball orb, and in the middle was very like more solid, but the more I got to like the edges, it was kind of like transparent. So I just stayed there looking at it and closed my eyes and thinking it would go away. It didn't go away. Then I started like covering my head. That didn't work. Eventually, I kind of like hopped out of the bed and ran out the door and tried to knock on my parents' room. They didn't want to listen to me that night. They literally were like, go away. And I was like, oh my God. So I just kind of stayed on my parents' bathroom floor that night. And that was my first that I can remember. And I've had other things, then like I would hear my name. I would see shadows when I was take a shower. Lights going on in my house in that same place. So it was just weird.
Interesting. Do you think it was the building? Were you ever able to find out what caused this?
Not really. So that was in a trailer park. I lived in a trailer park in Sweetwater when that happened. And just so happens that trailer park is now being demolished. So recently, earlier this year, that trailer, I went back to my trailer and try to investigate it and do some EVPs while it was abandoned now. And just kind of went there and asked what it was that I experienced. And all I did was ask the question, like, what did I see when I was little? Like, what was that ball? And it answered, we got an answer back through the EVP.
Well, let me put a hold on you here, because we've got to take our first break. But folks, stay with us with Mondo and Jen from 305 Paranormal as we begin to find out about the birth of 305 Paranormal and where you guys are at today. So stay with us. We'll be back after this break. So we are back. So we now have an idea how Jen conned or forced Mondo into this field. Just kidding. But about your experience and how you got into it. But how about the birth of 305 Paranormal? When did that become a thing? How long ago? And what caused you to kind of create a team?
So during COVID, I had a lot of videos and I was like, I don't want to keep it on my phone, to be honest with you. So I just created a page just to upload my pictures and whatever we did and where places we investigated. And that was really how I got started online. And just to showcase like whatever we got. And so I would say during COVID was really the time I had time to do all that, create everything. And then about 2019, I already had the page. And probably since then.
So and you actively investigate? How many investigations do you do, say, in a month or in a year?
Oof. This year has been slow, but we were doing once a month with like the events that we were helping out with another team here in South Florida, and more towards the end of the year, that's when it's like really active. It's like every other week, something like that. Yeah, but it's throughout the whole year. We're every other month we're doing something at this point. We have actually an investigation tomorrow at not tomorrow, Saturday to a place that you mentioned. We're gonna be we'll be back there because that's our local haunt. We're very close to that place.
Yeah, we love that.
That's Gold Coast Train Museum, which does have quite the reputation. And you made a comment to me about it's not all that well known, and you're right, it's not. And that we heard about it through some other folks, and it's supposed to be a very, very active place, and it's a huge train museum. And and we as a team, we're heading down there later in November ourselves just to check it out. But I understand it's quite active. How often do you investigate that facility?
When's the last time we went there?
The last time we were there was
a few months ago, I think.
I believe it was August, July or August. It was July or August, definitely. We used to go there quite often, but then in the beginning of the year, the events there started slowing down a little bit. But we were going there before, I would say, if not monthly, every other month. But that is our definite like favorite place locally here in Miami to go and investigate. It also helps that it's like a 15 minute drive from us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easily
it's very good. It's
one of the most haunted locations down here in South Florida, easily, that not a lot of people know of.
Well, would you agree that you've got to investigate a place more than once to get all of the data out of it? You just can't go once and expect to get everything. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. And another thing as well is, let's say you go somewhere the very first time and maybe it was a little quiet. I would encourage you to go a second and even a third time if possible, just to be able to formulate a good opinion on said location instead of just, hey, I went here, it was slow, I'll never go there again.
Yeah.
Because you're not giving them a real shot.
Mm-hmm. Well, that actually brings up a good point about conducting investigations. First of all, let me start by asking, what is your purpose? What is your reason for investigating?
I say for me, it's just, I guess more since this is something I've grew up with, I kind of feel like I understand more spiritually and like the other side of like what spirits' intentions are at some places or just in general by investigating. I like to help people at this point. Is just, I want to show people that they don't have to be scared about investigating or a spirit. It's not, everything's not a demon like everybody likes to clickbait on. I want to show people that, it's maybe it's your family member coming back, try to show you signs. Not everything has to be scary.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I think as far as for me, my purpose originally was just answering questions that I had about the paranormal. Why is this a thing? Why does this piece of equipment work versus others? But it's slowly kind of like transformed into a different purpose for me. Just like Jenny was saying, is educating the masses as far as like not to be fearful and things like that. But just to take it a step further for me, there's a lot of spirits out there that at one point in time, they were human. They want to just be able to communicate with somebody or just be heard, have their story heard. So I think that helps them, and in essence, it kind of like helps us to be able to communicate and share their story
and see why are they here? What is their story?
There's a spirit that has been on TV here in South Florida, in a location. It's called the Bealey House in Yeshire Village. Said TV show gave him a bad reputation. But we've investigated there a few times, and I can tell if spirit likes him or likes the investigator or not, because you'll always get shouts, screamings, curse words, things like that. If you talk to them respectfully, like they're like Larry and I having a conversation, you get full on conversations with said spirit, and we noticed the difference. So from there, we started treating all spirits with respect, and we've garnered a lot of great results because of that. We don't get the typical screams and curse words. We get conversations now.
So what do you think this is, Mondo? What do you think? Who do you think you're talking with? What is this phenomenon? Do you have an opinion on it?
Ooh, so Jen and I have gone down this rabbit hole quite a few times.
Always theories.
It's of course. These aren't and by any stretch, we don't want to make it seem like we are masters of the paranormal or professionals. It would be irresponsible to call yourself that, because this is a field where we don't know all the answers. We are trying to learn more. And that's why I like picking the brains of other people in different locations, because maybe they see things through a different perspective that I haven't seen or noticed, or things like that. But we have our theories.
Wants to know what you think.
One of our theories is we're investigating and we're doing EVPs, but what if the other side is investigating and doing EVPs as well, and they're hearing us and we're hearing them?
Okay, I'll give you my theory.
Okay, hold on just a second. I want to, because this is interesting. So are you suggesting, Mondo, that this is not necessarily communication with a spirit that maybe has passed in this light, and then maybe it's in a different plane, such as heaven? Or are you saying it's just a situation of dimensions where they're living their life here just like we are, and you're living like, and somehow we're crossing? Is that where you're going with this?
Welcome to our rabbit hole.
Okay.
We'll put up a chair for you.
Okay, your turn, Jen.
Turn. So I have a theory. I think that is happening in some cases. I don't think it's like that in all cases.
True.
But I do think we have kind of maybe encountered that, where maybe I'm starting them, they're doing their own thing, and I walk into them and they kind of like veer off, because we've seen shadow scary, and then I'm like, same thing, trying to communicate with them. Did we scare you? Yes. And I'm like, okay, like, like if they're doing their own thing, and maybe I'm thinking that's why they don't know. Sometimes they don't know they're dead. They're wondering like kind of like the movie, like The Others. Yeah,
The Others, great movie. But are they, from what you're describing, are they dead, or are they just living in a different plane? And I find this conversation interesting because, I'm happy to hear this, because too many people say I have the answer, I know, and you hit it right on the head, Mondo. We don't know all the answers. But what I'm hearing both of you saying at some different level is, this isn't so much talking to grandma who passed away 6 months ago as it is just maybe crossing different planes.
Like, that's why I think sometimes when we start talking about residual energy and like a loop, every time at 1 p.m. somebody's doing this at the same time, and that's why you always hear knocking. Maybe they are doing that at that same time, and then we're disturbing them. So I start thinking about a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, it's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and that's why Jen and I will never classify ourselves.
I'm pretty sure I'll be a professional when I hit that place.
There you go.
I've always said that we'll know what the other side is like when Abraham Lincoln pulls up a chair, sits down next to me, and said, "Yo, Larry, this is what's happening on the other side." At that point, we'll know. But we don't have that. So, and I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. So how do we get away from folks that say this is the answer, this is what it is? What do you say to folks like that?
I don't know. What would I say?
It's difficult because at that point I don't want to feel like I'm judging somebody on what it is that they have. It just goes by, is it concrete? Is it, do we really know the answers? No, we don't. We can tell you we investigated this location and we got these type of responses and things like that. But it's difficult to quantify somebody else's, experiences and things like that. Right.
Do you think that people have these experiences differently based upon their own emotional makeup, their own vibrational frequency, if you will? Do you think that changes how people are seeing things?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I definitely believe whatever you come into a location, your energy, whatever you bring in, if you want to see something negative, you might experience something negative. We don't go into places looking for negativity or demons and stuff like that, and we don't get anything like that type of experience. Everything to me is frequency, is vibration. So you're getting back what you put out.
Jenny was harping something on me when I first became, into this as an investigator. She harped on set your intention. What is your intention? Why are you doing this? Be strong in what it is that you're saying. Set your boundaries. It's very important that is done because you don't want to open the wrong doors and things like that. So it's
when you say open wrong doors, can you open up a door that leads down a path that doesn't lead to good things, shall we say? I'm not talking demons because we already decided we're not going to call it that, but can it open to evil?
Yes.
Yeah, negative attachments.
Because that was your intention.
Yeah. Or just say if you don't set a protective boundary, I would say, or you're not strong in your faith or your mindset, that's something a lower energy type of entity can manipulate you or try to attach itself to you, wants to leech off of your energy or something,
Well, what is okay then?
Too, just to even piggyback off of that, that's why Jenny has also told folks, hey, if you're feeling sick, you shouldn't investigate. If you're going through a rough time, let's say family, work, etc., you shouldn't go and investigate. You should only investigate with a clear mind and things of that nature.
And feeling well, and of course, if you start feeling ill during an investigation, you got to get out of there. Well, I got another rabbit hole I want to go down in just a second, but we're about ready to take our next break. So if you'll hang with us, and folks, you'll hang with us too. What a conversation from folks down in Miami. More to come, so stay with us. Paranormal Stakeout. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome back, everybody, to this next section here. Now, just to recap a little bit, I hear from you folks that your basic premise is that perhaps we're dealing with dimensions. I'm not saying that's your only belief, but that's your primary foundation. Would I be correct?
That's one of
them, definitely.
Okay, fair enough. So then, that being the case, where's the evil that we were just talking about? Where's that coming from, in your opinion?
I think they have their own realm. They're to me, there is different dimensions, and they have their own. From what I understood, I guess they are maybe on the same plane as us, maybe just right under, but there's different planes, and they have their own, and sometimes they can cross over to ours. Obviously, maybe we're crossing into theirs, and we don't even know it. And just right moment, right time, we hit that same frequency, and we can see them, or they can mess with us, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's all energies and vibrations and things like that. That's typically how like EVPs and things like that work, because of white noise, and that's how we're able to hear them. You know, why wouldn't there be a scenario where like this, where perfect place, perfect time, boom.
And that's actually something I'm working on exactly there. It's amazing you mentioned that. Um, is there a religious connotation to this at all? I mean, obviously, death, going to heaven, that all becomes what we're used to in the, particularly in the Christian religion, but also in many other different religions, our soul leaves our body and goes somewhere else when we pass. Do you think that has an angle with this at all, a connection with this at all?
So I'm of Catholic background, and I was
Mhm.
raised Catholic. I still believe in my religion, and I I think a lot of, from what I've seen, I guess my experience, our experiences, whatever the person believes, what I gather is whatever the person believes when they're alive. Say
Mhm.
they were really, there's a heaven and hell, and if I don't do good, I'm gonna go to hell. Um, we've experienced spirits where they don't want to cross over because they don't
Mhm.
want to be judged. Like they literally said, like they're scared. They don't want to
The
move on
ele
to it
the
because of that.
elevator is gonna go down instead of up is what you're thinking.
There,
Yeah, so they'd rather be like, just, I don't know what it, maybe that's their purgatory. They're just in the dark all the time. That's what they tell us. That's what we've gotten as
we've
responses.
gotten as a like an EVP response that they were scared of the consequences of their actions while they were alive.
Yeah, and that's why they didn't want to move on. But those same ones, some of them have asked us to pray for them. So, maybe they're tired of it, or maybe if I'm saying during an investigation, you don't have to be scared. You can move on. You're going to be okay, you know, and maybe they've asked for prayer. So, and others just don't want to. They like the dark. So it's a mixed bag, just like there's a lot of different type of people in life, dark people, happy people, light people. I think it's the same type of scenario in the spiritual world.
Interesting. And then the bottom line comes down to we just really don't know the answer yet, do we?
At all.
That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. And that's, I think, where so many people get in trouble when they think that they know the answer. Now, Jen, you've talked a lot about feelings. Do you consider yourself a medium at all?
I feel like no, I wouldn't say, I would not call myself a medium, but I feel I am sensitive. I seen spirit, I hear them, I can sense them at times, and so during doing this, investigations, I'm sure it's made it easier, or it's opened it up. But this is something I've dealt with throughout my life.
Yeah, and I'm like Mondo. My first experience wasn't until I was an adult. Whereas I think, as kids, you almost become people that have experience as children, they've accepted it a little bit earlier. Now, here's one more rabbit hole I'm going to throw you down just for a second. How much of it is our own mind? How much of it is us? Perhaps with the hitting the untapped resources of our own brain, how much of that could be causing it, or is it not causing it at all, in your opinion?
I've experimented with that. I would
Mhm.
say during
Okay.
we've tried to do EVP sessions where I ask a question and then I'm thinking of the answer to see if that comes out during an EVP. We've done that with spirit boxes, and I've done that. You know how people use the cat ball?
Oh, yep.
I've done that myself. I've tried to like mentally be like, try to make it go off. That hasn't
Mhm.
worked.
Well, I got to tell you this quick story. Although you're the one that's supposed to be being interviewed, but I got to tell you this story.
You're good.
We were doing an event. We were doing an event with a gentleman named Brian Kano. I don't know if you're familiar with Brian at all. He's been around for a long time and a
Yeah.
great guy. We did an experiment down here in Fellsmere, Florida, where we went into a room and everybody was thinking about one word, and the word was banana. And you think about a banana, how it smelled, how it tasted, banana, banana, banana for a solid minute. And then they turned on the tape recorder and everybody stayed silent. And dang, if we did not hear the word on an EVP, banana. Now, to give you a pause there, doesn't it, as to the untapped power of our own brain to maybe influence some of this? And I don't even think it necessarily say making it up as much as it is just maybe enhancing it.
Exactly. I have one to throw back at you from that theory now.
Throw it.
So you know how they say spirit can. You ever get when you're doing a session and you get the response even before you even ask the question?
Mm-hmm.
So what if they're, spirit is knowing what you're doing and like, reading that thought, and then they gave you the word banana? I don't know.
Once again, we don't know, but the fact that it occurred has got to give us some pause to look at other things and not just put blinders on and say that little bump in the night was Aunt Gertrude trying to tell me she's still here. It could be something else. So, all right, throwing you under enough buses for a minute here. I want to know, when you guys are investigating, what type of equipment do you use? What do you do with the equipment? And what do you do with the evidence that you collect?
So equipment, we have all types of equipment: REMs, EMFs, cameras, audio. Depending on the situation or where we're at depending on what we'll use. We'd always like to do at least an EVP session and a spirit box session, because I like to get that interaction of back and forth communication. Mm-hmm. And where we do with our evidence, if I have enough time to go through it, I will post it on my YouTube.
Always the tough part.
Yeah.
No, that's why we only do our EVP sessions stop at 2 minutes, and then we listen to it right away, so that if we get an answer, we can respond to it. And also, who wants to sit and listen to the tape recorder for 4 hours solid? It gets tough. So I totally understand that. Yeah. So you catch something on your digital recorder. Okay. What do you do with it? Do you keep it? Do you store it? Do you ever compare it to other investigations? Do you, and as a whole, do you take evidence you've obtained in one investigation and compare it to others with the hopes of maybe finding a commonality or a thread between the two?
If it's in the same location, we'll definitely keep track of that, because if we go to a location long enough or more than a few times, we already know maybe certain spirit's name, the history there, and try to build a story or see what is it that they're trying to tell us. But I normally, if it's good enough, it's a class A or something you can understand, that I don't have to really show you what it is. I will tape it, and we just keep it as evidence.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever refer back to it later, or have you ever had the need to refer back to it later to say, I think I heard that same answer at this location? Have you ever had that happen at all?
Yeah, definitely. Like at where the Riddle House is at in Yesteryear Village, it's a living museum. So there's different houses there. Mm-hmm. And we've done that with one location and one building there, in same answer in another building, or I found, it's like they move around, and we've gotten the same story, trying to make a story from that location.
That was one of the original questions that I had. When I first started, I didn't know if spirit was kind of like condemned to being in that one same property all the time. The spirit there is one that showed me that he could appear in any of the houses in said location. He's not just stuck in the Riddle House. So he's talked to us in a building like a quarter of a mile away. So it was cool to answer that question for me personally, and learn more like that.
Yeah, if we get new names, say if it's a little boy that's there, we get new names, and then later on we'll try to talk to that person again and get more information, like how they passed or what is their story. It's always like a book.
As a matter of fact, so we would jot down notes and things like that. So one time they were cleaning up and they happened to go into the second floor where there was a children's room, and in the blocks, like the letter blocks, was spelled the name Michael. And we had Michael written down from a previous investigation at that house.
We've seen that name before. Yeah.
So that's why it's good to keep a journal or a log or at least your evidence in videos in categories and things like that. To refer
have you ever considered adding both weather and solar weather information into your investigations to see if you're getting more activity on a full moon as compared to a quarter moon or something like that. Have you ever considered doing that, or do you do that?
I don't do that, but I did notice that events that we were doing or like helping at normally would be around or on a full moon. So I did notice that, and I was wondering if the people were planning it that way. That was my own train of thought. But we do notice as far as like the weather, if it's really rainy or just stormy,
thunderstorms, ramped up.
It is like more ramped up energy. And full moon, sometimes I feel like, yes, it might be you might feel more electricity, like in the air, more energy, but not necessarily always.
Yeah, and everything's relative, but the moon is for the longest time, people have been able to connect the lunar pattern with crazy things that are going on. That's where the term lunatic came from, for example, because of people. And as a cop, trust me, full moons used to drive us nuts.
Yeah.
So now, are most of your investigations yours, or are they part of an event?
No, it'll be both. The ones I normally put online, it's from ours. Yeah, and if it's from an event, it might be a little clip, but we do our own stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And when you do events, you say they're more educational. What are you trying to impart upon the folks that you're working with? What's your message to them?
First, how to use equipment correctly. You don't want to use a K2 and then your phone right on it, and then you're getting all this
false readings,
debunk. Showing maybe what they see on TV isn't necessarily what could be happening in the background that maybe they don't know. And we can show them. Say if I have a walkie-talkie, I can show how a REM trips through a walkie, and they don't even know. They're like, oh wow, that does work like that. Stuff like that. So it opens their mind more. Like,
open the mind.
Yeah,
that's
to me, it's funny because we've done adults and we've even done middle school children.
Yeah.
So for the adults, it's like, oh yeah, I saw Zach Baggins do this, and then for the middle school kids, it's, oh, I seen that in Sam and Kobe, and it's like, well, guys, this is how it really works.
And when we get back from our break, because we're about ready to take it again, I want to touch a little bit on TV versus reality. So folks, stay with us. Jen Mondo, 305 Paranormal. What a show. See you after the break. And we are back for our final episode. Boy, this has gone fast, and I've got so many more things I want to talk about. But I do want to mention, folks, if you want to learn a little bit more about what I'm doing down in Florida, you can go to my website at IndianRiverHauntings.com. You can check us out on Facebook and our YouTube channel, which is at the @symbol Indian River Hauntings 2341. So if you want to see a little bit more about us, learn what we're doing, check that out. I also cannot say enough about the X-Zone Radio and TV Broadcast Nation. Check them out at xzoneradioandtv.com for all the great programming. Well, we've talked a lot today, and we started to get into the TV end of it. First of all, do you think that the TV shows have been helpful to the field? What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, because I do, because it's helped bring more attention to it, whereas people are more accepting of the paranormal than as before. It was more like a hush thing, and you didn't want folks to really know about it. I think it's more culturally acceptable nowadays versus when the folks first started.
Yeah.
Why, Jen?
No, yeah, I totally agree.
Well, do you think also that it maybe has brought folks into the field that have become serious investigators or researchers, or do you think they would have found their way into the field anyway? If that makes sense.
At least for the urban explorers, because a lot of people who are urban explorers end up kind of being investigators because of what they experience at abandoned places. Maybe for them, they would have maybe stumbled onto it, but others, I've seen, there's people that go into it because it's the fad, it's a new thing, and they just want it for fame. But I think maybe they die out quickly, or they get bored of it, depending on it's good and it's bad.
It has its ups and downs, but I think in a lot of ways it has helped bring it into the forefront. I totally agree with you on that one. Now, we've talked a lot about ghosts, the spiritual world. We've talked about dimensions too, and that leads me to this next question. Do you folks investigate or have an interest in dealing with cryptids or UFOs?
Yes.
Okay, that's a loaded answer, Jen.
No, yeah,
tell me more.
I'm all into that.
Okay. Well, what have you experienced either with UFOs or cryptids, and do you think they're connected with the ghost phenomenon, for lack of a better term?
Well, I don't think I've experienced we haven't experienced obviously no cryptid like Bigfoot or Dogman and stuff like that here. I was always interested in aliens as a child. Not sure if that's something that had to do with maybe what I seen. I do think they exist, so I don't know what you think.
What I think is, if we believe in the paranormal and we have evidence that we've gathered that the paranormal is real, the paranormal is normal, what makes us think that cryptids aren't real, UFOs aren't real,
or we're the only people in the
real,
universe,
that we're the only people in the universe, so yeah.
Does this enter at all into the dimensional theory that we talked about earlier? Could it? I mean, is it possible?
I believe so.
I think so, because I will believe aliens, I guess, or extraterrestrials could tap into our dimension or our space from people who've had experiences as being abducted or other experiences where they lose track of time or something. I don't know what they're experiencing, but or where they're even going, and then they zap back. Who knows?
I think that helps answer Bigfoot as well, because he just goes and warps in between different times and locations, things like that.
Well, that certainly has been a theory that Bigfoot, Yahweh, whatever they want to, not Yahweh. I forget what the other name for it is, but Bigfoot, Yeti. Thank you. All has this ability to jump back and forth, and that's why we never find any of them. And certainly that theory has been gaining strength, but do we have proof of that yet?
No.
So how are we going to get the proof? How are we going to prove that this is a dimensional, or it's just something we're making up in our own mind? How do you think we're going to find that answer?
I don't know. I would like to personally investigate. I want to go out to like the woods and investigate that myself. I've been trying to kind of set that up. Maybe what if I can talk to a Bigfoot in a spirit box? Why not? I don't know. Let's try that out. See what happens.
I just think it just hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
Okay. And it isn't that really the answer? Is we've got to keep expanding our minds and trying different things to either prove or disprove. See, the world I come from, I can have an opinion that this person committed a crime, but until I can prove it in court, it doesn't really matter what I think. So that's kind of where I see us going with this. This leads me into the biggest question I've wanted to ask you tonight: the Miami Mall incident from a few years ago. That is something that still pops. It's popping up on the internet. We're still seeing people question it. What do you know about that incident? It created quite the stir. And I'll be honest with you, I saw the pictures, and when you see about 30 cop cars, 30 squads in front of the mall, something's going on. What do you guys know about that incident?
As far as for us, to me, that's normal in Miami. If something goes down for like,
that's
if people
not a great publicity comment for Miami, Jen, but
that's the truth. But as far, especially down there, like in Biscayne area, and that's very a touristy spot. So you're gonna want more cops there, anyways. And that is the biggest police department here, I think, if I believe Miami-Dade PD down there, or City of Miami.
Yeah, City of Miami.
So if there is a threat, especially if that was a large cloud, I think, was it a holiday season? It wasn't again Christmas or something?
Yeah, I think it was close to New Year's.
New Year's or Christmas. Yeah. And if there is a threat of an active shooter, everybody's coming out.
Well, what did you guys hear about the incident? What did in the folks that are in your circle down there, what did you hear? Because there's talks about photographs being taken that are hazy at best, but there's a lot of people that are saying something happened. Did it, or were people just trying to get their face on the news?
I think, I personally think, I heard it was an active shooter at first, so I understand the police activity and why it was such a big turnout. I haven't seen anything that photo wise that convinces me that it's anything real. I remember I was debunking actually stuff. People were putting up videos, and I ended up finding whatever video they were putting, and it's like some old video, and they're just like trying to use it or make it backwards, and I'm like, this is, I don't know, I don't see it. And some places don't even look like Miami. Doesn't look like down, like Biscayne, whatever.
area.
So I'm like,
Really?
now, yeah.
Mondo, what are your thoughts?
The more and more I saw, it just didn't jive to me that it was alien. I think it was just, unfortunately someone shooting, and at that time of the year that does happen a lot in that area, a lot of shootouts.
But not only that, but it's just a lot of the younger crowd, and then guns that they're not supposed to have, concealed. You're taken into the place, danger with them trying to shoot innocent people and just starting a big fight because it's a lot of kids.
And my understanding from what I heard from my sources, it was firecrackers that were being shot off. So
yeah, I think so. I think it was New Year's or something. Yeah.
But in your opinion, the paranormal community in Miami, have they rendered an opinion at all? Have you heard anything?
The people that we've talked to, like I've asked them, and they kind of laugh at it. They laugh at it, so they don't believe it either. Okay, and I know some people. I know people in different City Miami and Miami-Dade PED, and
they all.
Nah.
Yeah, so you heard it here first, folks, from folks out of Miami. Nothing to the Miami Mall incident. So that's interesting. As we begin to close up our time together, it's gone fairly quick. We still got a few minutes, but I want to know from you folks. We've talked a lot about what this phenomenon is, what it could and couldn't be. We don't have the answers. Where do you think we need to go? What do you think that we need to do as a community to find out what these answers are? Jen, you first.
I would say talk to each other, network. If you go to one place and you've been there, share your findings with that person and try to see if we get the same stories, the same type of answers, and build off of there. Like, make those connections. Don't, gatekeep, I guess, and just, you're supposed to be figuring out this together. So make it like a community and work like that.
We're only stronger together.
Is it like that in Miami with the groups? I'm assuming you have contact with other groups in Miami. Is it that way down there?
I would say more. Yeah, we know groups here, but I wouldn't say it's like that all the time. No, but I wouldn't think it's like that anywhere either.
What are your thoughts about creating a system that we're all kind of not doing it exactly the same way, but we're all using a similar structure with which to investigate and collect evidence? Do you feel that would help us expand, maybe communicate better, if we're all kind of doing, things in a similar structure? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think so. If everything was so cookie cutter, then that leaves the person that's the innovative person, the person that thinks out of the box. It takes them completely out of the equation if everything's cookie cutter and done the same way over and over again.
Well, I'll tell you where I disagree with that, and it's my law enforcement training, because that's kind of what we do. For example, if I'm working a homicide here in the Vero Beach area, and they're working a homicide in Spokane, Washington, our structure is essentially the same. We do some things different. Some laws are different, but we're able to investigate it the same way, and thus we're able to share information with other law enforcement agencies. So that's kind of my thinking on that. But you're thinking it would take the innovators out of it then?
I think so. And the thing is there's things that we've learned from other investigators that we would have never even thought of. And we started using that into our repertoire. For example, a few years back when we were first starting, we learned about recording your portal sessions or your SB sessions and playing it back. And you start picking up voices that you didn't hear live in the
Playing it
portal.
back in a slower rate.
Yeah, you
Sure.
start picking things up. So if everything was cookie cutter and that wasn't a thing, we would have never learned about that technique right then and there. If that's not a common technique, you understand what I'm saying?
But I do, but that's how you learn, by communicating. Hey, I got a better way to do this, and then you do it. But that can still become part of the structure, because let's say, for example, Mondo, you pick up a piece of evidence, right? And somebody else picks that evidence up. They've done it a little differently. How do you really reconcile the two if you don't have a similar structure? I guess I'm looking at it from a legalistic sort of point of view. How do you prove that you did it, and how did you prove that this has happened before and before and before, if you haven't done it the same way?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I guess.
And what I got to say, because we're about ready to run out of time, I got to watch myself. The whole idea is communication between all of us. Wouldn't you agree? That's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
With that, folks, we are out of time. Thanks for being with us tonight. Jen, Mondo, 305 Paranormal. Thank you, folks, for being here with us tonight. We'll see you next time on Paranormal Stakeout. See you on the other side. Have a good night.